It is that time of year for me to give you the top 5 games that I have played in 2022. Now, before we get into that list, there are a couple of stipulations. Stipulation number 1, these are games that I played in 2022. It is not games that came out in 2022. And not only is it a game that I played in 2022, it is a game that I played for the first time. So this has to be the first time I am playing the game. It could have come out in 1997, but that does not matter because if I played it for the first time this year, then that means it was new to me. So that is the first rule. And the second rule is that it has to be a game that I played on stream. So that limits it to 24 games. And I'm going to have those pop up on the screen now. They might be all over me. Might be all over the place. You looking at them? They here? They should be. But 24 games and only 5 will make it. Okay? Only my top 5 will be on this list. And of course, only one of them will be taking the top prize of best game of the year. Before we get into that, though, I do want to get into another award I'm very excited to give out, and that is Worst Game of the Year. Now, again, this is being picked from the bunch of 24 games available. This is the game that I had the most miserable time playing this year, and that is a simple decision, which is Surgeon Simulator 2. My God, that game was awful. The first game was, just a fun, quick game with those screwed up physics, and you got to do surgeries and try to finagle around in there with your hands. Part 2 took that simple premise and decided to take a big fat dump on it, actually, by eliminating the fun surgery parts and making the game a puzzle game. It was the most miserable experience I had with the game this year. I had no fun at any point during playing it. The online was trash. There were mini games that had absolutely nothing to do with surgery. One being there was a big board in front of you with squares that would light up in correspondence with your floor, and you had to just step on those patterns as quickly as possible. You tell me what that has to do with the surgery. The game was god-awful. I had no fun at any point, and I think it was a major step back for the series. But that is all I have to say about Surgeon Simulator 2. We don't want to dwell on the bad things. We want to get to the good. Now, I will say, before we get to the top 5, there is an honorable mention because really the list was narrowed down to about 6 games. So I will give an honorable mention. I won't talk about it, but I do want to say Vampire Survivors just barely did not make the cut. It is a very good game, but it is not top 5 worthy, at least not to me. And we will get into the list. 5th place goes to Kindergarten. Now, that may come as a surprise. I assume people don't know much about the game. I didn't until I found it on Steam. I downloaded it, and it was a fun time. Definitely more enjoyable than I expected. It's basically, I don't even know what you call it, a roguelike. I don't know. It's what the hell? Majora's Mask. It's like Majora's Mask. You replay the same day over and over again, Monday, and basically you can help out people in your classroom throughout different times of the day, recess, lunch, class time, and you get different objectives to complete. And however much money you get at the end of the day, you can reuse when you repeat the day. And it's a fun game that is also, it's got a lot of humor to it. Very funny, very dark. And I enjoyed that, especially for a game titled Kindergarten. You wouldn't expect a dark adventure game, and that's exactly what it was. So that game gets my 5th spot in the top 5 list. Coming in at number 4, I am actually going to be giving that to Morrowind. Now, a lot of people would probably put that higher on the list. I know Morrowind is a classic. However, I will say I had an extremely difficult time getting through it. It is not at all like Oblivion or Skyrim. It is a completely different experience. Everything that you do in this game, you have to figure it out. This is the only game that I played in my life where I had like a dark elf notebook to keep notes in, because if you wanted to complete quests, you absolutely have to take notes and figure out just if you want to go to a store, it doesn't give you any sort of crosshair for you to follow. There's no GPS system. There's nothing like that. No HUD that you just follow a symbol and you get there. You have to figure it out. The game is different. It is a much different experience from Oblivion and Skyrim. It's a more advanced game than those titles. If you want to play a game where you feel like you are truly figuring it out for yourself in this fantasy land where you can build powers and do all sorts of incredible stuff, then this is a highly recommended game for me. I did not beat it. I will say the game was so difficult, I did not beat it. I maybe got 18, 20 hours in, and most of that time was me stumbling around lost. So that gets my 4th spot. Very enjoyable game, but just a little difficult for me. But number three, we're actually going to go with a game that just came out recently, and I have been having a lot of fun with, and that's Marvel Snap. I am actually a big fan of digital board games, and this isn't a board game, it's a card game. But it is a lot of fun. It's a lot easier than some other games you might have seen on my list. I did play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel up until I realized you needed a degree in quantum mechanics to read the cards. So I stopped playing that. Marvel Snap, it is a lot simpler. Now, that might turn some people off. I'm sure there's a huge audience out there that plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And they love that advanced gameplay. But for me, my little itsy-bitsy brain just couldn't take it, and Marvel Snap is a much more enjoyable experience to me. It still has that level of difficulty where as you build decks, you absolutely you have to put your thinking cap on, but it is just an easy game to understand. You know, it becomes more advanced with the abilities that each card has, but it is still a fantastic experience, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it's actually one of the only games that I have played post-streaming. I have played that game consistently. So that was number 3. Number 2 is going to go to another classic, which is Dishonored. This game has a lot to it. I did kind of a quick playthrough. I did beat the game, but I feel like there was still a lot for me to do. A lot of powers that I never ended up using. I can absolutely see why you would replay it and use some different powers. Again, it's a game that gives you a lot of freedom to do what you would like, and I always appreciate games like that. I don't know if I felt it's had that masterpiece status that a lot of people have given it, but it is an incredibly good game. And I would highly recommend it to people who like games that allow you to play with the style you would like to play with. And that brings us to our number 1 spot. And, I feel like a lot of the big titles have already been wiped out. So what is number 1 probably won't surprise people. And that is Fallout New Vegas. That game was incredible. I have waited far too long to play that game. I now feel ashamed that I waited this long to play it, because it was hands down one of the best RPGs I've played. I had a blast with that game. Definitely the best Fallout game. I think one of the best Bethesda games. I had a real good time. And I know, too, Bethesda didn't necessarily make this. What was was it Obsidian? Obsidian was the one who made this one. But you make choices in this game and you feel like they actually stick. You are allowed to do what you want. You truly are. The amount of main characters that I came across that I just brutally murdered was astounding. If you do it and the quest is no longer available, then guess what? The quest is no longer available, and that's just that. The amount of freedom that you had in this story was... It felt like you truly did change the course of things throughout, and I had a blast with it, an incredible time. I definitely plan to go back and play it again. I ended up beating the game at a level 19, which is a fairly low level, and that's because I'm on stream. I want to try to beat it at a good pace, but I feel like there was still so much that I missed. I didn't even play any of the DLC, and I still would put this at my top spot for the year. So overall, an incredible game. Anybody who has been thinking or debating about playing Fallout New Vegas, I would absolutely recommend you do so, because you are missing out. It is a fantastic experience. And don't worry about glitches and bugs like I did. That's why I waited so long. I played the vanilla version. It crashed a couple of times, but overall, it is worth the experience. And if you get mods and whatnot, you should be fine overall. So absolutely a well-earned top spot in my eyes. Fallout New Vegas, what an incredible game. But that is it. That is my top 5 list, along with the honorable mention and the worst game of the year. All of those awards have been given out now, and that is it. That is all she wrote. That's my top 5 for 2022. So until next year, if you don't like my decisions, well, you can go suck it, because there's nothing you can do about that.